Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Now let me just brief you about some history of AIM. AIM in its earlier days was called as Daisy CQ because there was a company with the name Daisy who has this tool with the name CQ, which was later acquired by Adobe, and Adobe renamed it from CQ to AIM. That is Adobe Experience Manager. In earlier days, when this product was with Daisy company, they had their different versions. Like they had their 5.4 version and then they released the 5.5.6. With every version they brought or they introduced some new functionality. Till the point when it was with the Daisy CQ company, it was just a CMS. It was not an enterprise level CMS. Here you can manage the content of your website and also you can perform a lot of functionality. But there were no other Adobe Experience Cloud tools like Analytics and all those. Integration with all other tools like Analytics, of course, in case if you need personalization, then you would have to again use some other third-party tools. Like the CQ tool was not providing any other support, but you can build pages of your website. You can host your website. That's all you can do. You can then do, you can 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 do. There are no direct way of integration. And like any analytics has to be tracked. For all those, you have to deal with different entities. There were multiple, we have the 5.6. All these versions were there, and then Adobe acquired this product and named it as AM, that is Adobe Express Management. And the first version that they released was 6.0. 6.0 was the first version that was released after this tool was named as AM. And then they kept on releasing 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, and the latest one is being 6.2. Now the latest is actually not 6.5, it is Adobe Cloud. I will tell you about Adobe Cloud also. What was the case with Adobe Evolve? That they were releasing newer version every year or maybe twice in a year. They were releasing new versions of AM. Because, of course, it's the tool. They have to bring new functionalities. They have to bring new features. They have to fix. Just see me. For every version, maybe. Of course, every company tend to make bugs and tend to have some issues or bugs with their product. They provide hot fixes. To fix those issues with their versions or to bring newer versions, they have to keep introducing newer versions of AM. What was the major problem with Adobe Evolve was what they started facing is that all their clients had this major issue that every year or every 2 years they have to upgrade their AM instance. They may be running on 6.3 and then Adobe will ask them to upgrade it to 6.4 to start using the newer feature of AM or to start having the fixes of AM. And by the time the company or the organization that is using Adobe Experience Manager, they migrate to 6.4, Adobe releases their newer version that is 6.5. Just now you have migrated to the version 6.4 and 6.5 is already there into the market. That was a major issue, and see migration of AM from one version to another, like if you want to migrate to one version to another. It is very tedious task. For a medium level website, it's at least. It consumed 2 to 3 months to migrate a single website from older version to the newer version. Like I tell you one instance, like we were on 6.3 and we have to migrate to 6.4. And Adobe, in their documentation, their release notes, they told that we have moved or we have changed the hierarchy of a lot of our folders. Like I hope you know that till 6.3, our tags were a part of our etc hierarchy. But by 6.4, Adobe suggested to move all our tags from etc hierarchy to our content hierarchy. And similar is the case with client lips. Earlier they were placed inside the etc, and now Adobe has asked to Play to move it inside the app's hierarchy. There, these were like a see now. If you have to move your client, your tags, do you know about tags in a year? See, like the case that we have, like it's, there is like in the website, there is a card, something like in Amazon. And then each card, it's present one like one product. And then, for instance, that product has a label. That label, it's been changed. Like time to time, it will be changing. We introduce it in a tag section. Yes, of course, to label something or to label categorize something to perform search on the base of labels. We basically use tagging tags, that is taxonomics. Tags were initially a part of some hierarchy, that is the etc hierarchy. And with 6.4, I'd always had to move it into the content hierarchy. Now see this change. Consider your website as maybe 500 or 600 pages. Now, on all those pages, of course, there is a huge possibility that there can be a lot of pages which would be referring tags. Whenever you would be using tags on the pages there, the whole content would have to be updated to where the old content was referring the tags at location etc. Now they have to start referring to the location content. Content. Similar is the case with client lips. They were placed inside the etc and now they are being placed inside. The apps are arching. Any JS or any CS or any of our file that is referring to our client lips. I will tell you what is client lips. We will discuss about that. But just one thing, like for discussion, for the whole purpose. Since with this movement, of course, a whole lot of code will be affected. A whole load of content will be affected by this. All these things has to be taken care while migrating from a lower version of AM to an higher. Also, when you move from a lower version, like maybe 6.3 to 6.5, there are a lot of APIs that gets deprecated and Adobe does clearly say that they do not provide support for deprecated things. And also like if it's deprecated, Adobe, like you yourself, while migrating, has to upgrade your code base to start using the upgraded APIs. To migrate from one version to other, it was C. If you want to migrate, of course, it's at least 2 to 3 months job for a normal level website. And now, if you are migrating, lets you define a team of 2 or 3 people with some QAs, which will add 1 or 2 more people. These many people will be assigned to a task where you would be, where they will be performing the migration. And this migration task, you are not bringing any newer functionality to your website or a new widget to your website. It's all like background job. You are changing the platform or you are updating the version. Nothing from the end user perspective, or we are not delivering anything new to the end user. That is right. To cope up with that problem, Adobe came up with Adobe as a cloud. That is Adobe Cloud. With Adobe Cloud, the main benefit of this is that any new feature or any new thing will automatically be available on Adobe Cloud. You do not have to perform a migration work. All those upgrades will be taken care of by ADM and you do not have to worry about it. That's the major thing why Adobe has been moving from their version upgrade to Adobe as a cloud. See, of course, any new feature, it will automatically be available. All the maintenance, all the monitoring, like any CPU utilization or any memory utilization, all those will be taken care of by Adobe now with Adobe as a cloud. In case, if anything breaks or any server is not responding, it is the responsibility of Adobe only to provide you with the new server. And they will from their end or from back end, they will check that if something is breaking or the server is not responding, then they will replace it. And by the time they say, if there is a heavy load on the website, from performance perspective also, if there is any heavy load on the website, they will automatically introduce new server by them. All those infrastructure work, all those like all the infra work, all the server maintainers work will now be taken care of by Adobe. What's with Adobe Cloud? Adobe is saying is that you as an AM developer now work as a developer and not an infra guy. And you should focus on delivering new functionalities to AM. And not a whole lot of time of yours should be spent on making platform changes or upgradation changes. Because see, with upgrade, nothing but benefits when client gets out for an upgrade. It's all nothing from end user perspective. They will get. That is why they came up with that Adobe Cloud, and with Cloud, it's not that they will only be upgrading your instances to the newer version. Any new feature will be available, but also monitoring also, and it utilizes a CPU also in case they provide the complete support to the client that if anything fails or any issue occurs, then they will take care of that. Any performance concern, you do not have to worry about monitoring and all. It is Adobe only who will be taking care of that. This was the whole history. Initially it was a CQ 5 days, then Adobe also started releasing their version. But after 6.5, you would not find any newer version of AM. It will all be Adobe Cloud. Now the focus of Adobe has been to migrate all their clients from their own premises server, whether it can be a new on-premises in company server or whether it can also be on some cloud, maybe a AWS cloud. They will do by themselves or they will get that content, something from the customers. See, it is the customer's job only to migrate their websites from Adobe Cloud. But they provide the complete support. Firstly, you need to get the license for this. The license for this is altogether work in a different way. See, with 6.5, It was like you like the number of license. See, in case of you want to buy a single license, then the cost of single license is this. But with Adobe as a cloud, the licensing thing is altogether works in a different way. Now, what are they? What they say over here is that we will charge you money on the basis of the traffic on your website. Like the number of traffic or the number of user landing on your website or the number of user browsers your website. On the basis of that, on the count of that, it will be decided upon the license cost. There is no such license cost actually, but it's all the number of user or the traffic of the website that actually define the cost of your. That's something like AWS services, right? Like they say, like how many memory users that you want and something. Yes, exactly. Do they use their own cloud or it's like? No. They do not have their own cloud. What they've done is they are also using Azure, that is the Microsoft one, and maybe some AWS server as well. And now on the top of that, they have done their own customization. What they have done is that they have created customization, and basically what they did is it works in the containerized way. Every time we deploy the code on Adobe as a cloud server environment, like we deploy on any of the environment, then a container that gets created, and that container or basically that image that gets created, and then that container image actually gets deployed on Adobe as a cloud. Its working is altogether different. Of course, we will discuss more deep into this Adobe as a cloud later, how it works and all. But this is the story. This is the history behind this of why Adobe is going to work and how the licensing will vary and how the things will vary. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.